Australia does not exist, where they said that Australia pretty much is New Zealand and you're being drugged. And it was just some of it was the craziest thing ever. And if you know the James Ramblin' Show, we've talked about a lot of crazy subject matters. It's just this one we haven't talked about that much. So I'm just going to bring you up to speed on this. And I know one of the YouTubers was Rag Reynolds, but Rag Reynolds is more so joking about it. But there was people that were actually dead serious about it, and some of them weren't dead serious about it. So the Australia isn't real conspiracy. Right. So let's see. Let me see if I can find something that the greatest lie ever told, how Australia is fake. Alright. Okie dokie. One fascinating, extraordinary belief that I have just recently come to know is the idea that the country of Australia doesn't exist. The theory holds that Australia is just an elaborate cover-up by the British government for a mass murder. People believe that when Australia was founded as a penal colony, that the prisoners were killed instead of sent to the non-existent island, but England couldn't admit that outright. Now these people would argue that it has simply been too long, so the British government maintains a conspiracy so as not to be viewed as lying and monstrous. The main people that believe this are people who believe in the flat earth theory, so that's a
You are about to experience the James Ramblin' Show, hosted by James Bay.
Hello, welcome back to the James Ramblin' Show for yet another episode. And then in today's episode, if you remember from last week's episode, I teased the fact that I'm going to be diving into conspiracy theories because for like the second or third time this year now, I've been running into a lot of the same topics and it's getting a bit repetitive here. But there is a few things that did actually go down recently that I do want to talk about after conspiracy theories. And just to preface, we're not going to be talking about the entire subject matter of conspiracies because we just spend so much time and we've got a guest coming on next week, so why would I bother with that? So conspiracy theories, right, it's this topic where you can pretty much take it anywhere you want because there's so many of them. There's like the moon landing, there's like all that stuff with 9/11, all that stuff with Alex Jones and the frogs are gay and Area 51, and there's also the Australia isn't real conspiracy. Actually, I'm going to start off with Australia not being real, and I'm going to give my thoughts on these conspiracies and if I believe in them or not, because that's a good point to bring up. So for those who may have been sleeping under a rock, there was this time in the internet where a bunch of these people came together conspiring the fact that Australia does not exist, where they said that Australia pretty much is New Zealand and you're being drugged. And it was just some of it was the craziest thing ever. And if you know the James Ramblin' Show, we've talked about a lot of crazy subject matters. It's just this one we haven't talked about that much. So I'm just going to bring you up to speed on this. And I know one of the YouTubers was Rag Reynolds, but Rag Reynolds is more so joking about it. But there was people that were actually dead serious about it, and some of them weren't dead serious about it. So the Australia isn't real conspiracy. Right. So let's see. Let me see if I can find something that the greatest lie ever told, how Australia is fake. Alright. Okie dokie. One fascinating, extraordinary belief that I have just recently come to know is the idea that the country of Australia doesn't exist. The theory holds that Australia is just an elaborate cover-up by the British government for a mass murder. People believe that when Australia was founded as a penal colony, that the prisoners were killed instead of sent to the non-existent island, but England couldn't admit that outright. Now these people would argue that it has simply been too long, so the British government maintains a conspiracy so as not to be viewed as lying and monstrous. The main people that believe this are people who believe in the flat earth theory, so that's another rabbit hole we can go into. And I think a long time ago, like last year on the James Rambling Show, we had Tudor on and we joked about how he had a flat earth theory, but we've not dived into it very deeply. So maybe after this, probably talk about that, but this is just mentioned in the article. So the flat earth thinking that to execute these prisoners, they sailed them over the edge of the world. This belief has found a recent resurgence in notability, though its height of popularity was back somewhere around 2006. This belief is important and extraordinary because it shows the depth to which people may believe the most insane things, and how one extraordinary belief may stem from or feed off another extraordinary belief. Right, so it's just I don't want to go through the entire article because I'm not here to read tons and tons of information. I'm just backing up what I was saying. So personally, I don't think that Australia is fake. I've been to the Sydney airport and I know Australia exists. So this is just bonkers to me that a bunch of people conspire together thinking Australia is fake. And it's a bit, all that stuff the article was mentioning about the British government and the cover up and all of that. So to piggyback off of that whole mention of the flat earth theory, for those who are, again, for those who are living under a rock, there was this point in the world and internet where there was a bunch of these people coming together, conspiring over this idea that the earth is flat. So normally the earth is round, but I'm gonna see what kind of articles we can pull, and this is not the first time where we've been reading articles on the James Rambling Show, but I'm gonna show it to you anyway. The flat earth theory, right? The flat earth theory, right? I know I am prepared for this episode. I just want to back up what I'm talking about here. So flat earth, right? Flat earth is an archaic and scientifically disproven conception of the earth's shape as a plane planar disk. Many ancient cultures subscribe to a flat earth cosmography. The idea of a spherical earth appeared in ancient Greek philosophy with Pythagoras. However, most pre-Socratics retained the flat earth model. So this wasn't really the first time it happened. I think it was like back in 2016. There was this weird time on the internet where the flat earth happened. Actually, I'm going to fact check that. When, I think it was called the Flat Earth Society. When did the Flat Earth Society start? Was it, I think, I'm going to double check, right? Okay. The Flat Earth Society has been around since 1956, so it's not even been around since 2016. I think it just had this, there's like memes of resurgence where you saw a lot of people like, the earth is flat, the earth is flat, oh, the earth is so flat right now. And I'm somebody, I have a brain, right? So obviously I know the earth isn't flat. I'm being serious, right? Anybody has these conspiracy theories, I don't really mind. I'm just talking about this because it's some interesting stuff and we're mixing up the bag here with some a different topic. So we've talked about how there was those people who thought Australia is not real and it was like a giant British cover up, a British government cover up. Now we have the Flat Earth Society where these people thought the earth was flat and not round. Because the earth is round, it's not flat. Right, like the moon is round, obviously. The sun is round, obviously. No planet in the galaxy is flat. That is crazy to think, to be honest. So there's also Area 51. So there's a lot of theories around how how aliens exist and what truly is in Area 51. And I think I did mention Area 51 in the memes and Twitch streamers episode, where I was talking about how a million people signed this thing on Facebook, and this guy was joking, come to Area 51, but if you go inside Area 51, obviously you're going to get shot because it's a private government place. So if you go in there, you're going to die. So it was kind of crazy. But a lot of people think that aliens exist in Area 51, right? I'll look into that as well. The Area 51 conspiracy. I think there was one on that as well, right? Right. I know there's like like there's all these things where people assume that a UFO is flying around, but a UFO is an unidentified object, flying object, right? So of course it's not just going to be aliens in there. You don't know what could be in there, and that's the interesting thing about this topic is, these people have all these theories. You don't really know what's the truth and what isn't the truth when it comes to this stuff. Obviously, you know the truth outside of conspiracies, but when you're steeped into these rabbit holes and you're very obsessed with this one idea, you just can't escape. You don't know. You just go away from the truth. So I think I've talked a bit about those three ones, like the flat Earth, the Australia doesn't exist in Area 51. I think I might talk about how there was this conspiracy during the election where these people thought the election was rigged, and that was like another crazy conspiracy. And then after that, I'm gonna dive into the crazy theory that the moon landing was a hoax, right? We'll dive into that as well. So I'm just gonna put it straight again that I don't believe in this stuff, right? I'm just having fun with this concept. So the election is rigged conspiracy. Let's dive into this one. And so Reg 2020 yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a conspiracy because it wasn't actually rigged. I don't think it was just because people were just voting for Biden and Biden and Biden, and people were just like, yeah. It's just it was debunked, so it's not even a real theory that actually is real. So on the day, Congress officially counted the electoral votes, making Joe Biden the next president. Chance to stop the steal echoed to the U.S. Capitol. The deadly assault followed months of President Trump's in, all right, hold on. So Trump's instance that Biden's win could only be explained by rampant fraud, and he encouraged his supporters to demand a different result. And then they were shouting, "The election is rigged! It's rigged! It's all a giant scam! It's all da 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 da. So it's bad or whatever." So people go very crazy when they are so dived into these rabbit holes of conspiracies. I say so myself right now. So, and there is a 2024 election coming up. So who knows if that I'm pretty sure, right, back in 2016 when Trump won, everyone's like, "Oh, it was rigged, it was rigged, it was rigged." And then when Trump lost, "Oh, it was rigged, oh, it was rigged, oh, it was rigged." So you can see that they don't really change their mind that much when they're so into this stuff. Because they're just so delusional. That's the biggest thing about conspiracy theories is that it's so delusional to think these things are actually real, but they aren't. So we've talked about those three things that we've just dived right in there. We've just flowed right into those obvious ones. But another pretty well known conspiracy that has been talked about on Joe Rogan and a few other podcasts and has been talked about on YouTube, and a lot of commentary channels and whatnot have done this. They've took a little deep dive into this thing called the moon landing hoax. So in the 1960s, this guy called Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, but there was this bunch of these people that said, no, this was faked, by the way. So there was that. So we're going to dive into this right now. The moon landing hoax. Moon landing hoax conspiracy. Let's go for it, right? Right, so here we go, right? I'm just going to use Wikipedia here. It's not always the right source, but it's got a decent enough information for us to talk about here. So, moonlight conspiracy theories claim that some or all elements of the Apollo program and associated moon landings were hoaxes staged by NASA, possibly with the aid of other organizations. The most notable claim is that the six crewed landings 1969 to 1972 were faked, and that 12 Apollo astronauts did not actually walk on the moon. Various groups and individuals have made claims since the mid 1970s that NASA and other knowingly misled the public into believing the landings happened by manufacturing, tampering with, or destroying evidence, including photos, telemetry, taped radio, and TV transmissions, and moon rock samples. Jesus Christ, man. How can people think that the moon landing is not real? It literally happened, and it's one of the most well known, well documented things in human history. So to be like, oh, by the way, the moon landing isn't real, it's just like, what is going on? What are these people going on about? I just realised there is also the Illuminati, which is another huge conspiracy theory that is like this underground government institution. I'm pretty sure, and I've seen memes of it like do 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 do. So this is another one that I personally haven't dived into the Illuminati conspiracy because I do not actually believe in any of this stuff, as I've said a few times already. But so the Illuminati conspiracy, this is just insanity right now you're witnessing. So Illuminati conspiracy, let's go. So what was the wait, different meaning, I guess you could say. Right, what was the meaning behind all of that, right? Alright, here we go, right. The Illuminati, plural of Latin illuminatus, is a name given to several groups, both real and fictitious. Historically, the name refers to the Bavarian Illuminati, an Enlightenment era secret society founded on May 1776 in Bavaria. I don't really know what that country is, but today part of Germany. The society's stated goals were to oppose superstition, obscurantism, religious influence over public life, and abuse of state power. The order of, in quotes, the order of day, they wrote in their general status, is to put an end to the machinations of the purveyors of injustice to control them with dominating them. The Illuminati, along with three masonry and other secret societies, were outlawed to edict by Charles Theodore, Elector of Bavaria, the encouragement of the Catholic Church in 1784, 1785, 1787, and 1790. During subsequent years, the group was generally dude, there's so much information. I can't actually believe how much information when I'm trying to talk about something. There's just so much information here. So pretty much right. It's just a society that had all this stuff and believed that they were supposed to oppose all the superstition and religious influence and whatnot. So there's that, and there is also cults, but that's an entire that's in a completely different rabbit hole we could dive into in a future episode. But we spent quite a lot of this episode diving into the most well-known conspiracies known to human history. And as I said a few times, I don't believe in any of this stuff. This is an interesting topic to mix up the bag. So outside of that, I I have a few other topics that I want to talk about. They're gonna feel slightly repetitive, but if you remember back a couple of weeks ago in the James Ramblin' show, I talked about how I was into Vinland Saga, this anime. Well, I got up to season two in it, and I said in that episode, "Oh, I wonder if it's gonna be slow or not. I wonder if it's gonna be slow or not." And personally, like I heard it was slow, and I actually think that season two is pretty bad in my opinion. Like that first season of Vinland Saga was very action packed, and I do like slow burns. But when you go from a very action packed series to very slow burn stuff, it's just kind of weird. And also, there's like this character called Aina, and it's just like the main character's just a slave now, and there's all these peasants, and it just feels boring and not, and there's like barely any action on top of that, right? I think I mentioned One Piece and Naruto a long time ago on the James Ramlin show, but like this show has like Naruto and One Piece level of filler where there's like a 3 minute intro sometimes, and so you're got 3 minutes of an intro, then you've got the song, then you've got the whole episode for 20 minutes, and so it just takes forever to get to the point. It's chomping at the bit and just keeps going on and on and on. And I've seen people trying to defend this online, right? I'm just saying this because I haven't finished the entire season, but I just wanted to talk about this because I wanted to elaborate upon what I said like a couple weeks back. So I'm not a fan of it, and I'm not the first person to say this either because I've heard that a lot of people don't like how slow paced it is, and fair enough to them because this is supposed to be a fast paced action historical epic kind of series, and now what you're doing is and making it anime filler. And I've heard like from episode 10 it actually picks up more, but I'm just not invested in Einar and these slaves. Like I never mentioned it in the actual episode a couple of weeks back, but there's the main character Thorfinn, there's Askeladd, and there's all these characters. I might have mentioned it, can't remember. All these characters, right? You have this interesting revenge tale going on here, and then you get to this season, and they're all just slaves, and they're all just farming, and they're all just doing that, and you get to see how Thorfinn is depressed, and I just do not care. Honestly, I don't know why. Like the show is just fell off, in my opinion. So I hope it gets better, but right now, not really too settled on it right now. Probably will watch some more animes that actually have some good action. I think there's like this boxing anime, but right, that's like my fourth time talking about anime or whatever on this podcast. But there's that, and also this is another thing, right? This came up on my radar that there was this Superman Legacy announcement, and the guy's name was John Consweet, and this other lady, and it's like if you remember, like I think it was in December, I did a take on how Henry Cavill left as Superman, and this guy looks the part for Superman, and he was in Peril, but I talked about Peril a couple months ago, I think. Can't remember. I think I did. Yeah, I did a little deep dive on that. But so he's in Peril, but I don't know him so much, and I'd rather not know the actor than actually know what they're in because it's not just oh it's a famous actor guys, oh my god I'm gonna show up to theatre because big name. No, I'm gonna go and show up to this movie because I'm gonna get invested in the character. And that's a thing I said like earlier this year on the James Ramlin show, that the MCU, right, you had Robert Downey Jr., you pulled up for Robert Downey Jr., you didn't pull up for these other actors because Robert Downey Jr. is a famous actor. And so that's kind of why this is happening now. I think James Gunn is smart by doing this, by giving us these actors we have no idea who they are, or if you do know them, that's cool. But if you don't know who they are, there's just more. It's more fun to like kind of speculate on how it's going to be, and the guy actually does look like Superman a little bit. So I will show you. I will show you a picture or like an article or something, or read an article about it. So right, the Superman Legacy thing, right? And I personally, right, I like the fact that it's an unknown actor. I don't really know much about except from in Peril, but it's like I need to see a trailer or the actual film. Otherwise, I just don't know how to think about it. And they had these like announcements of who could potentially play Lex Luthor, who is a prominent villain in Superman's in the DC and Superman's like kind of universe. So the Superman Legacy announcement. Right, Superman Legacy announcement. I'll have to see a trailer though. I'd rather see a trailer at this point. Right. So, Superman Legacy. Um, Recently, Warner Bros. And DC announced that David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan have been tapped to play Superman and Lois Lane in new film Superman Legacy. News of the upcoming project was first teased in late 2020 amid Henry Cavill's confirmation that he would be passing on the cape as a superhero, and was officially announced in March 2023. Since then, an extensive search for the cast has been underway, and several new details about the plot has been revealed. In contrast to previous iterations of the Superman story, this film will focus on an earlier part of Superman's life as he grapples with Kryptonian heritage and a human upbringing, I should say. Alright, I'm not going to go through the entire article. I'm not going to go through the entire article, but pretty much they've chosen these people, and so they're gonna use them in the film. And I think I've kind of said enough about that, right? There's quite a lot of topics on this week's episode, definitely. So we've got all of that stuff, right? So to close out this week's episode, right? I know this has not been the first time we've said this before, but Russian hard bass, right? I talked about it with my friend Ethan, right, last year. I talked about how I'm really into it. I didn't like how Uamee had the single normal years, what I want, battle set, whatever. But really, that was homogenous, and I didn't really know what I was saying back then. But recently, Uamee, this guy, made a track where he had like these Gen Z words with a hard bass beat, and I'm just like, the Russian hard bass genre is about pumping squats and doing all these vodka drinking and all that. And so when you put Riz and On God and all these cringe words paired with hard bass, it just makes no sense. Also, it's out of tune. It's not really Russian. And there was this other song, Beer Cheese Wisconsin, where this song is an American accent on a Russian hard bass beat, and it doesn't fit. And when the guy says Uamee, it sounds AI generated. And so Uamee is pretty much running the Russian hardbass genre into the ground. There's still DJ Blackman providing the goods and XS Project where they are sticking to the Russian spirit, right? And I'm even gonna play these songs, so I'm not just talking out of my ass, right? I'm gonna play these songs with 25 odd minutes into this episode. So YouTube, I don't really care right now. I'm just gonna play this for YouTube, right? Here we go. So I'm gonna give you a taste of what this trash really is. So we've had another little interesting mix here, haven't we? But here we go, right? I'm showing you this right now, right? Why is my phone not turning up for some reason? I'm not gonna blast it, but just so you know what it's like. I'll have to put it right next to the mic though. Oh no, not the ads again. We encountered this last week as well. Fuck's sake. This is what it sounds like, by the way. This is not Russian hard bass at all. It's just the words with a beat behind it ready. It also just sounds boring and repetitive. It's like Riz, on guard, bussin', 3, 2, 1, raw, It doesn't even sound like Russian hard bass or something you want to listen to. So Beer Cheese Wisconsin is another terrible song we have right now. It's an American accent, right? Like the bass, like the beat, the build up to, and then the drop off of the beat is cool, but the rest is kind of cringy. It's supposed to be catchy, but like, this is not Russian hard bass, it's an American. I don't think I can play the entire song, but I'll skip to when he says Uamee, right? He butchers the hell out of it, and Uamee just like actually uploaded this. Hey Uamee. It's like, hey Uamee, have you ever heard of Malort? And it's like, this is not Russian hard bass, mate. This is like a shit post on YouTube right now because you're not bumping squats, you're not putting vodka in there. So to contrast this terrible like Uamee falling off, you've got hard bass school providing the goods. So let's go for that, right? This is what This is what Russian hard bass is right now. I'm gonna play this. This is what Russian hard bass is. Right, this is what you go for Russian hard bass. You get the Slavaboo audience. They're supposed to target towards the Slavaboo audience here. None of this offbeat trash, right? This is Russian hard bass. Listen to this. Listen to this. See? See? That there's a Russian accent, and the only good like Russian hard bass song that Uamee's made was the one with the Life of Boris, which felt Slavic. It didn't feel offbeat. It didn't have American accents. So I'm gonna play that as well, just so you know. And we're talking about music a lot more now. But you know, dude, when things hum up on my mind as of late, it's going to come into the podcast no matter what. So here we go, right? This is the Stalkers in the Zone, which I've listened to 200 times. But this is fucking Russian Hardbass right here. Listen to this shit, man. This is what this song is supposed to be about. Russian accents, not American accents. Vodka, right? And he's actually having fun as well. You know, it's like, yeah, kind of stuff. I think I've dragged this rant out a bit too much, but you get my point, right? Russian Hardbass is Russian. There's a reason why it's called Russian Hardbass. Not a dude from Wisconsin talking about beer and cheese. Get the hell out of there. Oh man, this is a longer episode, right? We spent like freaking 15 minutes talking about conspiracy theories. We spent like a bit talking about Vinland Saga, and we did a whole rant about Russian Hardbass and how, well, Uamee is the guy that's kind of fallen off. There's also Alan Aztec, who's not really providing as much good music as he used to. But so there's all of that stuff. There will be a guest on next week, as I teased in that community tab post, and I'm recording this on a Thursday because I want to go ahead of time, because I'm going to be uploading an Indiana Jones 5 review on Saturday, and I'm going to see it like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, so I won't have as much energy after that review to upload this kind of episode. I'll record this episode as well, and on top of that, I'm going to be diving into Spiderverse 2, so I'm going to plan ahead and record this. So this has been a bit of a longer episode, but I'll see you next week for another episode of the James Ramble Show. We have a guest on, and we won't have any other repetitive topics. It feels like a once in a blue moon, but where we don't have repetitive topics anymore. But alright, see you next week. Bye.